Please welcome our next speaker, a relentless advocate for immigrants, for anyone facing deportation, and for Queens, New York, State Assemblywoman Catalina Cruz.
Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches a todos, and happy first primary day. If you are from New York State, you get the joke. My name is Catalina Cruz. I am the first Dreamer ever elected into the state of New York. I am a recovering immigration lawyer and a big fan of the work that Vera has done for our state and our community. I go back with the Vera Institute to when the Liberty Defense Project was created, and you'll hear a little bit about that in a few. Thank you, Jason. I represent the epicenter of the pandemic, and it is also the community with the highest number of undocumented New Yorkers. The highest number of undocumented New Yorkers became the epicenter of the pandemic. That wasn't by coincidence, that was by design. And so when we have an organization like Vera trying to work with elected officials to push to make sure that when you come to this country, that you get the representation that the Constitution guarantees you, I am thankful for their partnership. And I want to give a special shout out to two people before I begin officially my speech. Kika and Shayna, the two of you, oh, there you are, hi. The two of you helped us work small miracles when it came to ensuring that undocumented New Yorkers and New Yorkers who are immigrants facing removal proceedings have access to a lawyer. As I mentioned earlier, I am the first Dreamer elected in the state of New York. And I decided to pursue a career in immigration because I once got that letter to invite me to leave the country. I want to call it that because calling it anything else is very triggering. My mother and I spent close to 15 years, she actually spent much longer, living as undocumented Americans. My mom had been a nurse back in Colombia and became a volantera, or the women who give out flyers on the corner of 82nd Street and Roosevelt. She later became a domestic worker. She sold empanadas and did basically anything that she could think of to make sure that she put me through college and later law school. I became a permanent resident, a citizen almost by miracle, and then became a lawyer and soon realized the power of actually writing laws and actually investing money and actually pushing for policy. I kind of began realizing that when we started working on the Liberty Defense Project. And Kika, I don't know if you know this, but I'm the person who created it behind the scenes. Oh, you do? Okay. I am the person who created it behind the scenes. And what this project attempted to do was the first step toward the idea of representation in immigration court for everyone. And I am assuming that if you're here, you may not know this, but if you don't, under the Constitution, if you are facing criminal charges, you're entitled to a lawyer, but not if you are facing deportation or removal. And often, you end up in jail as well. So you could be losing your liberty and your ability to stay in the country that you love, but you don't get to have a lawyer. And we often hear the stories in the news of the little children who came through the border and had to face a judge without representation. But you don't get to hear often about that mom or that dad who spent 20 years in this country and then gets picked up by ICE and then gets put in detention. And then just 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court told us that those very families are not entitled to bond. They're not guaranteed bond. And then they have to go in front of a judge often by themselves, because an immigration lawyer in this country is a luxury. Because the idea that you could be facing deportation and have to figure it out yourself, all of you have tried to do your taxes, I'm sure, and none of you would try to do them yourself. Think about the idea that you could lose your liberty if you got those wrong. And that's what happens in immigration court. About 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to actually become one of those volunteers when I was at the city council. And I stepped into immigration court, and I saw with my own eyes that nothing had changed. And then most recently, I got to see it again. Nothing has changed. It is still a churning of people's lives in front of a judge. If you're lucky enough to afford an immigration lawyer, or if you're lucky enough to get immigration legal services, then you have a chance. The statistics tell us that it's about 10.5 more likely that you'll be successful. And so throughout the years, this is something that I worked on because it matters to me, and now it matters even more to the community that I represent. And it became my passion to make sure that one day in the state of New York, every single person facing the possibility of removal will do so with a lawyer right by their side. And I want to see that nationwide as well. Because if the decision that we heard just last Friday, actually it was the additional remarks that we heard last Friday, have taught us anything, is that they are coming for all of the things that we believe in. From protecting immigrants, to gay marriage, to contraceptives, they are coming for everything. Because it's about power and control. And with a lawyer, and I know that sounds so serving because I am a lawyer, but with a lawyer, when you step into a courtroom and you're facing deportation, you have that power. And I am thankful to the Vera Institute for not only recognizing that we need that in New York because we have such a high immigrant population, but we need it nationwide. And I heard a few names of some of our colleagues in the federal government, and I want to urge them, please join us in this fight to make it a national project, to make sure that you can clap, every single immigrant should have a lawyer. And I want to tell you what we've done in New York. I am proud to carry the bill that hopefully in a very short time will make it so that there is a right to an attorney in immigration court. But over the years, while we fight to make sure that it's a right of every person, we fought to invest in it. When I helped create the program several years ago, we began with $10 million that all of a sudden, in the middle of political fights, disappeared. And I teamed up with Kika, and I teamed up with several other community organizations, the New York Immigration Coalition, to make sure that we didn't have to fight for it every year. The first 3 years, it was literally down to the wire, but we got the $10 million to make sure that people have representation. And just this year, we made sure not only that it was now a baseline item, which means we don't have to fight for it every year, but it's been increased to closer to $15 million. It's not enough. It's absolutely not enough. Because what you're going to see, if we ever get immigration reform, because I am an eternal hopeful, is that we're still going to have a court that's backed up. Because for 4 years, we had someone trying to deport every single one of our family members and my neighbors. And so we're going to need, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're going to need more lawyers. I know that people laugh because we have so many lawyers, but we don't have enough lawyers specializing in immigration. And I hear, and I saw some of the folks who are here today, there's a lot of firms who may not practice immigration, but are here donating and are here supporting the cause. I urge you not only to donate more to Vera, but to allow your partners, your associates, and the folks who work with you to volunteer for organizations that go in and represent children and represent families. Because a mom fighting to stay in the country that will help keep her child alive, because for many of us, that's what it was, should not have to go in front of a judge to argue in front of a system that was stacked up against her for an opportunity to simply survive. And I'm thankful to Vera for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. Because for someone like me, I grew up very poor, I grew up undocumented, and in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would become not only an elected, but lead on an issue that was so important to my family. And so I'm going to leave it with just one more ask. Over the next probably 2 to 3 years, we're going to see decisions coming down from the Supreme Court, not just around immigration, but around a slew of other issues, including criminal justice reform, that I know the Vera Institute supports. And I know they're going to be my partner, but I need you to be theirs. I need you to be there, not just financially, but as a think tank, in whatever you can do to support the work of Vera. I'm grateful for your partnership. I'm grateful for I don't want to call them small miracles anymore, for the big miracles we've managed to do for immigrant New Yorkers. And I know that this is just the beginning. Thank you.